I'm so sorry some people have to stand. We're not going to be here that long, and I won't be able to take pictures with each of you. I'm sorry. And I cannot sign everyone's book. I'm sorry. But you can sign the book as if I signed it for you. In any case, let me know, I realize that you are all students trying to study a business, most of you business, and when I tell my students, I want them to major in at least 2 subjects. One is marketing, and the other is finance. Sometimes people in marketing, they don't like finance because finance has too many numbers. And people in finance don't like marketing because they think marketing is too soft, it's not hard enough. But when you study both of them, the advantage is it makes you good at selling things and creating impressions, and it also makes you think business, because you really shouldn't just think that you're good at marketing. You really have to think that you're part of a business. You want the business to be successful, and that means to be profitable. Now, there's three things you can do when you graduate, really. Well, one is to join a local company, and there's a lot of companies in Armenia. There are companies making food, there are companies making clothing, there's carpets being made, there's mining companies, companies with chemicals, companies with all kinds of things. Or you can try to work for a U.S. company that may be here with a branch, or it could be any global company that may be here. Or you can start your own business. I love people who start their own business. That's what happened to Bill Gates. As a matter of fact, he didn't even finish school. And that's what Steve Jobs did. They had big ideas. One of the things that Armenia is interested in is the whole new internet world and the creation of what we call software for applications, software for games. And some of you will find a nice career, if this is of interest to you, to create some business around some software that either business needs to use or consumers love to have on their computer. In fact, I heard that one of your specialties in Armenia is that you're world champions in the game of chess. That among the top performers in this very complicated game called chess, it really means you have a lot of intelligence and a lot of brain power, and that's good. I also know there are people here, not from Armenia, but from Iran and also from Georgia, and all of you are welcome, because we love young people, and we really want to do what we can to help you succeed. The field of marketing is to be explained to people. The shortest definition of marketing is filling needs profitably. 3 words. Notice the word needs, because that means you care about someone else's problem or need. Filling the need, meeting it, satisfying it, and then doing it profitably. So it's the only 3 words you need to explain what you're busy doing. It really means that you're in the business of finding solutions. Someone needs something, no one else is supplying it or supplying it well, and you're going to be the one to help satisfy the need. Now, the need could be for, people need care when they're in a hospital, so that's a service business. They need food, so a restaurant business. There's all kinds of needs. There's never been an end to the number of needs in the world. So somehow you have to say, what am I passionate about? What kind of business would make me passionate about the business? I keep telling companies that the difference between a strong company and a weak company is a matter of whether the company has purpose and passion. Purpose and passion. In other words, if a company just thinks it's making money, it's making widgets, fine. But the employees won't be so excited. The retailers won't be so excited. The kinds of companies that really are exciting is where they have a purpose. They want to make a difference in something. They want to create more happiness in the world. They want to raise the standard of living. And they're passionate about it. So I hope that you all get matched to a company or an organization that you care about. By the way, there's really three parts to every country. One is the business community. The second is the NGO community. NGO means non-governmental organizations like the American Heart Association. It could be a group that, of people, peacemakers. In other words, they're important groups that raise money and then they help others even though they're not making a profit. The third group would be government. And we certainly need good people in government too. We need good civil servants, people who really see themselves as running a government bureau, an agency, running it well. So you have to decide, how do you want to move? Today we say to some of our students that maybe you should spend, after graduation, spend time in a company. The company will add to your knowledge and training, especially if it's a good company. Then, maybe some years later, you will get an idea of something you want to make yourself. You may even go from working for a company to becoming an entrepreneur. You leave the company because you have a good, strong idea. And then maybe you're going to go into teaching. Some of you will learn so much that you might say, maybe in the evening I will teach young people some of the things I know. And then maybe you'll go into government to help in some kind of way to make things happen. So nowadays we think many people are going to have 4 careers, not just one career. In the old days, a person would work for one company for their whole life. So that's another thing to think about. Now, the part of marketing that I want to talk about is that there is, of course, what we call marketing, commercial marketing, where you're selling a good or a service. That's the normal beginnings of marketing. And by the way, it doesn't mean that the only thing you're doing is advertising or being on the sales force. It would be a mistake to think that someone else makes the product and then they ask marketing, come in and sell it. That's not correct. Marketing should be part of the group deciding on what to make. In other words, marketing doesn't come after everything's been made just to sell it. Marketing comes up with the idea of what should you be making as a company. What is the need? There's a company in Chicago called Abbott Laboratories, which makes medicines. They tell me that they depend on marketing to do everything for them. What are the world's diseases? Which ones need a cure? Which ones will they have the good biochemistry to find an answer? How many people out there will be needing that kind of treatment? How much money will they make? But it's marketing that starts the whole question of what to be producing. It's not just a matter of how to sell something, it's what should we sell? To whom? And that's the basic idea. Now, marketing is also very helpful now in a thing I call place marketing. How do you help a city, a region, get to be known? You know, every place wants to stand out. Like, how many people in the world know the city of Yerevan? How many people know anything about the city of Yerevan? You have a very nice city here. I've enjoyed the visit. I think it's like a European city. It's got quality. But what could you do? You'd have to ask marketers how to make your city more famous if you want more tourists. Now, someone will say, well, build an Eiffel Tower. And that's what we know about Paris. They have an Eiffel Tower. Let me tell you how a city that is working now currently to make itself famous. It's the city of Abu Dhabi. Any of you know Abu Dhabi? Okay. Now, Abu Dhabi is an hour and a half away from Dubai. First of all, Dubai is a miracle city. Even Dubai was a work of imagination. It was a work of marketing imagination. That prince who runs that city thought of creating more islands. He created I think you can go on a mountain and do ice skating or skiing. I mean, there's no mountain in the desert, but he makes a mountain. So Dubai is an incredible example of product creation and marketing creation. Now, Abu Dhabi was a little sorry about that because all the attention was going to Dubai. Except, you know, Dubai now has got a problem because they ran out of money. So Abu Dhabi said, we're only an hour and a half away. How can we do something that will bring a lot of people to keep coming here? And what they decided on is that they would build 4 new museums. 4 museums, so that eventually everyone in the world who loves art, they not only will have to go to Paris to see art, not only to London, not only to New York, they'd have to go to Abu Dhabi. What are the 4 museums? One of them is a branch of the Louvre, the famous French museum, which has said it will send a lot of great, great art to Abu Dhabi. The other one is a branch of Guggenheim, famous Guggenheim Museum. Each of the 4 buildings is so beautifully designed that even if you didn't go inside the building, you will want to see the building. See, that's what made a city called Bilbao famous. You know the city in Spain called Bilbao? That built a museum by the very famous architect, Mr. Gehry, Frank Gehry. Well, people are flying from Chicago to go to see that museum. So Abu Dhabi has the answer now. So I'm talking to your city and I'm asking what could be created here that is a must-see? Something that we all want to see. Now, one of the things you can do here, of course, is you have a great religious heritage. And you have a lot of religious history and things to see. In fact, you also say that you have the mountain where the Noah and the ark finally was found. So this is part of marketing, how to market a place. Now another part of marketing, and this is interesting to young people, is how to market a social behavior. There are certain social behaviors that are good for you. Let me name some of them. Exercise. You want to be every day doing some exercise. Eating good food, not junk food. That's a good behavior. How do you market a good behavior? How do you also demarket, which is demarket is the opposite. How do you demarket a bad behavior? Like smoking, hard drugs, throwing things on the street, litter. There's a lot of bad behaviors too. So there's a field of marketing which we call social marketing. What we mean by that is selling an idea or a behavior that is better for you and the society. And now, for example, Armenia has a little reputation that people drink a lot. A little? Now the question is, there's a difference between enjoying a good drink and getting drunk. A drink that is social is fine, but getting drunk and driving a car and killing someone or having an accident because you shouldn't be driving is another matter. Smoking also goes on here. So social marketing in the United States has worked very well. Now cigarette smoking is down from here to here. And we never try to get someone to completely stop smoking, but we try to get them to smoke less. And this is especially important to men who want to be in sports, because the cigarette really hurts your breathing and your energy and your life, really. So maybe some of you don't want to go into commercial marketing, you want to go into social marketing. You want to work for an organization, and I just published my 4th edition of the book, Social Marketing, with hundreds of cases of good and bad behaviors and what we have learned about helping people in this regard. So what I'm saying is, marketing is lots of things you could be marketing, but what part of marketing interests you, if you're interested in it? Is it the marketing research side? If you're scientific, you probably want to be a researcher. You want to find out what causes people to want something. How do they choose the car that they want? What drives someone to be interested in electronics or in something else? In other words, you're going to do surveys. Nowadays, there's some new ways in which we do marketing research. We're using a thing called neuromarketing. We ask people if they would put on their head something that will measure their brain waves, and then we can show them an object and see if the brain goes like this, which means, boy, it must have interested them even if they didn't consciously say anything. There's new marketing research techniques. Now, some of you are more interested in communication. You would love to create an advertising campaign. You would like to get something on YouTube. You would like to get do something with Facebook or Twitter. That means you're more of a communication-oriented person. You like communications. And there's a field we invented at my school. My school is called the Kellogg School of Management, and we're part of a university called Northwestern University. And we invented the thing called IMC. And IMC stands for Integrated Marketing Communications. In other words, traditional communications like TV and print and magazines, and also the new social media, integrated. They both work. Or maybe you're more interested in the product development side. You want to help your company to innovate. By the way, one of the hottest words today is innovation. Now, not only as an entrepreneur, but just as a company. Because here's the truth about companies. Many companies do not last a long time. Many of them open up, they make some money, and later on they get stale. You know, they don't change enough. The times change, but the company doesn't change. They get to be old-fashioned. So it's very important in a company to keep it alive, to keep it, to bring in some trends or go after some changes. Innovation is in the nature of some of you may be innovators. You'll know that if you're a person with a lot of ideas. But for innovation to work, you need all kinds of people in on the project. I just finished writing a book called Winning at Innovation, and I distinguish 6 types of people who have to work on an innovation. The first person is an activator, someone who has to say, I think there's something that we should look at. It looks very interesting. So that person is activating an interest. But that is not the person who's going to check it out. The person who's going to check it out is a browser. Namely, notice I'm going from A to B. I'm going to go from A to B to C to D to E to F. So a browser is the one who takes that idea and says, I'll find out everything about it. I'm going to go on Google. I'm going to learn everything we need to know. Once you do that, if you really think you got something good, then turn it over to the C, which is a creator. A group of people who will now create a concept. A concept that sounds like it would really sell. See, every product should start as a concept. A product should not start as a product. It should start as an idea that is tested. In other words, I tell an automobile company, don't make a car and then figure out how to sell it. First figure out what you're selling. What is the concept? So now the creative people make a very good concept. It's tested, and people love it. We ask you, you ask you, and you all say, I would buy it. Oh, good. So let's make it. Now you go to the developer. See, you go from the creative people who created the concept to the people who are good at developing the product. And that means they're going to make a physical version of it. They're going to make a factory to make it. And now we have a developed product. The next step is E, execute, execute. Now we got to take it into the market and sell it. And then finally, there's someone who has to finance us. We got to be sure we keep getting money to keep getting that product in all of the distribution channels. So this is my model for innovation, A, B, C, D, E, F. That's how a good innovation gets started. So with respect to your career, do you want to be more of a marketing researcher type, a marketing model builder? Do you want to be a communicator? Do you want to be more in the innovation side of the business? If I were your age, I'd be excited about the internet and all of these things that are now so helpful in making new things and so on. Let me stop here and ask if there are any questions any of you want to ask that I might be able to answer very briefly.
Many people offer to create a museum and to cover by glasses in the center. And do they enter from the gallery, National Gallery, which is in place, in the central
and
place.
You look on glass over there, and then you can see that your history is 4,000 years old.
Yes, and tourists could come and see the history. But they decided that it will be very expensive for our government, the budget.
Yes.
And they refused to do that.
Yeah.
It was a good idea, but as a specialist, what could you offer to our city to do to attract tourists?
Okay, it's a question that's a good question. First of all, the way you handle a question like that is you put a group of good thinking people around. We call them C people, creative people. And you don't just ask from a professor, one person, what he thinks, because he's not here long enough to be an expert. But you know what you do? You almost can set up a web page or something on Facebook and it invites all the people who have ideas about what to do to add to the city. And you begin to make a cause out of it. And you find some really fantastic ideas just from the number of people who start writing to you. Let me give you the same example in a different way. The company called Fiat is creating a new small car. And they put Fiat on the Facebook, and they invited everyone who loves Fiat to give ideas of what they want in this new car. They got 100,000 people writing to them. You understand how you could generate excitement over that. Now your idea about preserving the beautiful history you have, you could dig it out and then put it in a regular museum, or you can look down at it. When I feel I've been responsible for Bilbao building a museum, because I was there before the city had anything. And I says, you've got to have something. How about a museum, but not a normal museum, one that is so beautiful to look at that everyone has to come and see it. Then the question of money and budget is an interesting one. Armenia, there are 10 million Armenian people in the world. Some of them are very rich. A lot of people think that certain things have been around so long that there's no room for innovation. For example, they might have said, watches have been around forever, so there's no way to make a lot of money on watches. And then Swatch comes along and shows a whole new way to make it a collectible. Something like, I need one for Saturday, for Sunday, for Monday. It depends on the clothes you're going to wear. Every industry can be reinvented. Now, for example, what if I said to you, could you reinvent the coffee industry? Because coffee is something we all have. We go to McDonald's or somewhere else, we have coffee. What did Starbucks do? They created a very different coffee experience. Now, what I'm trying to say is, you can take the oldest product and make it more exciting again. Take, for example, bookstores. Most bookstores are small. All of a sudden, we ended up with a new bookstore that has 150,000 books. It serves coffee. It has speakers at night. You can go there from 9 in the morning to 11 at night, 7 days a week. And that's called the Barnes & Noble bookstore. In other words, old ideas like bookstores, watches, coffee, can be innovated again into something new. So that's where the genius of marketing comes. When someone says, I can create a different way to do something. For example, Federal Express. When I used to send the mail, it would take 3 days to get to another city. Now, Federal Express gets everything the next day. So what real innovation is when you reimagine a different way to make an offer or to do a service. For example, in the United States and in many parts of the world, a lot of hospitals are not very nice places. Hospitals are not nice places to be anyways. You don't want to be sick. But there's one hospital in the United States that everyone admires called the Mayo Clinic. And that's where they want to go if they're going to have to go to a hospital, because they've learned the secret of great service and of helping the patient through all these difficult things in the best possible way. So I'm always for improving things. And sometimes the improvement is minor, and sometimes it's major. Of course, the one we admire most for creative genius is the late and great Steve Jobs. I mean, who could imagine a phone? I mean, this is my phone. This is a wonderful BlackBerry, but it's not the iPhone. I mean, I also have an iPhone. And then the iPad. I mean, that is really what we love to see in the world. And I don't know how many more things we can keep inventing. Someone told me he wants to invent a car that could fly, because the traffic is so bad that you'd like to get in your car and fly to work. Well, there's one problem. You usually have to drive on a runway to take off, right? So you can't just go right out on your road and take off because there's a lot of traffic. Anyways, someone did invent a car that flies now, but he hasn't figured out how to get the space to drive it up in the air. You can look it up, by the way, on Google. You just say flying car. But he should have thought about it, that no one's going to buy it anyways. In other words, he made the flying car, but no one's going to buy it. Someone else is trying to make a car called a woman's car. Yeah, well, you see, because most cars are made by men, right? And for men. In fact, the first time that car manufacturers noticed that women might be in the car is when they put the mirror on the passenger side. They figured the man doesn't want a mirror, so it must be that the woman has to sit on the passenger side. But when you ask women, how would a car look that was made for women? Well, first of all, the seat for the driver, for the woman, would turn. In other words, you can get out easily. Secondly, you would make sure there's a lot of room for the purse, for the woman's purse. And then one woman said she'd like a place to hide her gun. So maybe she drives through bad traffic. So if you put together a focus group, and I love focus groups, you know, 10 people, you say, let's get some ideas, let's brainstorm. And what would be in a woman's car that women would appreciate that are not found in the normal cars? And I bet you'd come up with 10 ideas. And then maybe some manufacturer will want to make such a car. Always think of how to improve things. We have another question?
How you define marketing filling needs profitably. I have this question. I've heard a lot that in order to sell any product, you have to think as a consumer. I would like to know your opinion about it. And my second quick question is about, you said that a company has to reinvent in order to, let's say, survive in this world where there is a huge new companies coming up, etc., right? I just want to know your opinion about a very famous company, Coca-Cola, which does not have to reinvent anything year by year in order to sell its product. Just two quick questions. Thank you.
Let's take Coca-Cola first. The president of Coca-Cola once told his people, "We have been asleep. Yes, we are successful. We have 55% of the Coca-Cola market, of the cola market, but we only have 3% of the drink market." So he said, we're making a mistake not to make wine, not to make orange juice, not to make... So the problem he was talking about was something we call marketing myopia, which is to be nearsighted. You're not seeing all the other things you can be doing. And besides, Coca-Cola it should not rest on its laurels, because Pepsi-Cola has been biting at them every year. Not successfully yet, but Pepsi-Cola is always there to take over if they slip, if Coca-Cola slips. So it is necessary for Coca-Cola or any company to recognize that the world is changing, and when you know the world's changing, there's two positions you can take. Three, actually. One is to stand still, which will kill you. Second is to move with it, not any faster. The third is to move ahead of it. And they say that good companies move with the trends, great companies create the trends. In other words, they see a need before others have seen it. And that means that companies are able to create the world and not just react to the world. I mean, Steve Jobs created the world we're in. So, now the first part of your question was good too, but marketing profitably, you said?
Yes, the first part was about your definition, filling needs profitably. I asked that there is a well-known phrase, right, that if you want to sell a product, any product,
yeah,
if it's a food or clothes or anything, you have to think as a consumer.
Yes.
Because in marketing, consumer is the most important.
Well,
so I want to know your idea about it.
Yes. Here's the thing. There's an old tradition of thinking that the most important thing to think about when you're a profit company is the owners. This is the old idea. First, think about the owners and make money for them, and then you'll keep your job. The new theory is different. The new theory is, I'll give you it the way that the Johnson & Johnson company thinks about it. They say the first group to always understand and study and serve are the customers. Whoever you decide you want as your customers. The second group are your employees. Because if your employees are not engaged with the mission to satisfy the customers, namely if the employees just stand like this and here you're waiting for service and they're busy chatting and they ignore you, then that doesn't help the business. So the employees must be also motivated. The third group, Johnson & Johnson says, would be the community, because we have factories and businesses in different cities, and we want to give something back to each city, make sure it's a good city. And the fourth group, the last one they think of are the shareholders or the owners. Now, that doesn't mean they don't care about the owners. Actually, this is the way to make the most money for the owners. Because by doing the right things first, customers, employees, and I should add the distributors and the retailers too. Now, actually, I like to think of a company as actually running a team of partners where everyone will be a winner. Not just the owner. The employees will be winners. The distributors of the merchandise or the retailers will be winners. The suppliers who supply the company will be winners. Not that everyone wins the same, because each one makes a different contribution. But if you think of stakeholders, we use the word stakeholders to mean those who have a stake in the future of the business. So why not say you have a bunch of partners? Now the latest idea is to take one of your partners, namely the customers, and ask the customers to help you create the future products. See, instead of you just having some R&D people who design the next product, you invite customers in to tell you what they also would like your products to do for them. Now, I know it sounds like marketing research when you just say, here's some ideas, Mr. Customer, what do you think? No, I'm talking about actually involving the customers to work with your engineers to create things they want. A good example would be Harley-Davidson, the motorcycle company. They love to have their fans, those who love motorcycles, hang around with the engineers and teach each other with some new things they want as customers. And this is also done by the Lego company in Denmark, which makes the toys, the Lego blocks. They invite teenagers to come and help them create the next structures, these big buildings, these out of Lego blocks. So why not co-create your future with partners called customers? Not all customers, but those who want to be your fans. Let me mention a book that you might want to read because it's had a big impact on me. It's called Firms of Endearment, which is a fancy way of saying companies that people love. So let me ask you this question, which we ask in the United States. We ask this question, is there any company you love, name it, or at least a company you would miss if it disappeared? So in asking you this question, anyone here, any company that you care about that much? Which one? Disney, see? Disney comes up in the same survey. In America, they always say, oh, I would be sorry if Disney would disappear, would get hurt. I love Disney.
What you suggest? Just we read in your books and in other articles that search engine marketing will replace a lot of old marketing theories and marketing practice. What you can suggest? Suggest us about opportunities of search engine marketing?
Well, you know, I never used that word search, and I use the word search engine, but I never created the idea of search engine marketing. To me, that must be a branch of just internet marketing and e-marketing. Isn't it just a branch? What was meant by search engine marketing?
We are meaning about Googling, about other kind of opportunities for different companies to be in top 10 list of companies during some search. For example, pizza company, if this company wants to be popular, should be among 10 top companies in my neighborhood, if I'm searching something.
Yes, I understand exactly what you mean, yes. What you're really saying is, whenever you look up something on Google, the different entries are ordered from the first one you see to the second, the third, and most of us pay only attention to the first or second entry because they must be they're being first or second because they're more popular, they're viewed by more people. So a lot of questions come up. How do you get to be highly ranked? How do you get your company to be the first listed when someone says they're looking for a Chinese restaurant? They're looking for a supplier of shampoos. How do you get to be, it's called search engine optimization. Now that is a small part of marketing. That's important to some people, of course, but it's not a revolution. I mean, it isn't that a company is going to die because it isn't listed as the first or second or third. So I do think there is an intellectual challenge to learn how to be so clever as to get your company to be the first or second. That's important. But it's not a whole new branch of marketing. I don't think so.
Like most people argue that in Armenia we don't have a strong marketing because we don't have a competition. Mostly our businesses are oligopolies. So how important is like competition for having marketing? Does it marketing creating competition, or is it competition that needs marketing?
Well, here's the thing. There are some industries that are monopolies altogether. Sometimes you have a company that's the only one, like the one who supplies the electricity is the only one. You're not going to have two electricity companies. You're not going to have two post office companies. Now, an oligopoly means usually there's a word called duopoly, which is when there are two competitors. Oligopoly is three or more competitors. And what the person is saying is that here, most companies don't have much competition. I understand that. Which really means they can sort of charge handsomely for the price because they're not competing against so many other people. But sometimes they make the mistake of abusing the customers, and they even create the reason that someone will come and find another way to sell the same thing at less cost. I think that competition is always good to have, but sometimes there's over-competition. There are so many companies making shampoos, so many companies making a number of products, and so many car companies, so many types of cars, that in a sense, it almost reaches the point sometimes where no one's making money in the industry because there's too many suppliers. There's an interesting thing that is not your question, but it makes me think of. When a society is suffering from shortages, which is not today, but in the past, you know, during the Russian regime, there weren't enough food and clothing items and so on. That was a period of shortage. And in a period of shortage, marketing doesn't matter very much, because people will buy anything they can get. You don't have to sell anyone on buying something because there isn't enough. Marketing becomes important when there's oversupply, when there are so many competitors that how do you stand out? How do you get someone to love you and want to buy from you? So marketing is healthiest when there's a lot of supply and overproduction and so on. Now, the real problem in the world is that there's too many poor people around who don't have their needs satisfied. And so the problem called overproduction is really the problem of underconsumption. In other words, the people who have the needs don't have the money. So all of us recognize that 4 billion people out of 7 billion are really going hungry, or they're very poor. So somehow, if the problem isn't overproduction, it's that there's not enough people who have the money to buy the car, the motorcycle, the bicycle, and so on. So all of us, I was so interested in this topic that I wrote a book called Up and Out of Poverty. How do we lift more people out of poverty so they can live the good life? One of the oldest definitions of marketing has been the science of raising the standard of living. The science of raising the standard of living. In other words, the basic impulse we have as marketers is to increase the amount of happiness in society. Now you may say some of us decrease the amount of happiness in the society, because we make you want Mercedes, but you can't afford it. In other words, by raising your desires, but not giving you the capability of satisfying your desires, you get frustrated, and I understand that. But technically, the spirit of marketing is to deliver a good life to a middle class, to create the middle class, basically. And so on. Now, I'm going to have to stop here, because I know there's a lot more questions, but I really want to say that I've been in a lot of places with a lot of student bodies in a lot of countries, but you're one of the best experiences I've had. You really ask great questions. Thank you very much.